Hey, and welcome back. Today is the second of 4 Hershey videos. This one's going to be on the Car Corral. That is the cars that are for sale at Hershey. There's some really interesting stuff. I've got some other Hershey videos coming up. One on the car show, a world-class event. And this year I went to the RM Sotheby's auction preview. So there's some really nice cars there too. Anyway, without further preamble, let's just jump in and look at some cars. Okay, first up we have this massive 1913 Renault Type DB Coupe Chauffeur. This was offered at $189,500, and by the time I saw it, it was sold. If the car looks vaguely familiar, it may be because you've seen the movie Titanic. This isn't that car, but it was only 1 year off. That was a 1912 Renault Type CB. The movie is actually accurate there. A car of that year and type was actually on the Titanic. Well, I guess still is on the Titanic. Anyway, back to the car in question. This is a lovely unrestored, or at least older restoration example. Renault, of course, is a French make. Here the headlights are Besnard. If I'm mispronouncing that, please excuse my French. The brass fixtures all around are brands that we don't normally see in this country. Here the side lights are made in Paris. The squeeze bulb for the horn was unusual. Instead of like the big round rubber ball, it had sort of a diaphragm that you push in. That was cool. There, of course, is the speaking tube, so you can send orders up to your chauffeur. On the inside, of course, we have a very spacious passenger compartment. This is interesting. Up on the roof, those 2 lines, those are for storing your top hat. Just a reminder that this car would be only for the very wealthy, the creme de la creme, as it were, and would be a car rarely seen outside of wealthy circles. Here's a little closer look at that diaphragm bulb horn. I thought that was just really cool. That just goes down to a more standard looking horn. There was another horn over on the other side of the car, but I was unable to find the just exactly how that one was actuated. Now here's some American steel. This is a 1920 Indian Power Plus with Princess sidecar. The whole thing is available for $75,000. The Power Plus had been in production for a while and was the model that Indian had sold to the U.S. government during World War I. The Power Plus would be phased out in favor of the Indian Scout. Boo! Here's a nice little truck. This, of course, is a 1937 Ford pickup. I don't know the price. It was already marked sold by the time I saw it. Nice, clean, and straight with the V8 emblem on the side of the hood. Of course, all Fords of this year were V8, but you see this has the little 85 on there, meaning it had the larger of the 2 flathead engine options. This was the first year that Ford offered the smaller V8 known as the V8 60. That's a 60 horsepower. That was 136 cubic inches as opposed to 221 cubic inches on the 85 horsepower variant. And of course, the V8 85 got special badging all around. Just down the road, we have another Ford pickup. This one is a 1952. And I have to apologize, I forgot to pick the price on this one. Not all the cars that are parked here have the prices listed, so I don't always have that information. In this case, I think it was just my bad, though. Anyway, super clean looking truck here. Everything has been done 100% on the inside and the outside. I really love the 51-52 Ford trucks. One of my favorites. I don't think they have a bad angle. This one has had some drivability modifications though. The owner claims that it drives just like a modern truck. You can turn the key and drive this anywhere. Next up, we got a car I was really impressed with. This is a 1942 Cadillac Series 75 formal 7-passenger limousine. This is the car that was used as Howard Hughes' car in the movie The Aviator. Cadillac built only 80 of these in 1942, and only 2 are known to exist. Of those 80, this is body number 1. Now, Howard Hughes' actual car was body number 2. So I really got to give props to Martin Scorsese and whoever was in charge of the props department for that movie, because you really can't get more accurate than that. Here's a better look at that formal roof line and window arrangement. This would be the last year for this body style. Of course, being in 1942, this would be the last year for a lot of body styles, for at least until the war ended. Cadillac stopped producing cars in 1942 and began producing tanks and other things. Here's a little board. This shows only 38,000 original miles on this car, which is very impressive. So with that low mileage, I'm assuming that a lot of this car is still untouched original. From one impressive car to another, here is a 1915 Fiat Type 55. Under that massive hood is a 9-liter 4-cylinder engine making 42 horsepower. This is not a factory body, this is English-bodied race car. Fiat was big into racing about this period of time and competed in all the biggest races around the world. The French Grand Prix, the Gordon Bennett Cup, Paris to Madrid race, and of course the Vanderbilt Cup here in the United States. Europe in general had a reputation for producing top quality race cars. That's why when Locomobile won the Vanderbilt Cup in 1908, it was such a big deal that American car had beat the best that Europe had to offer. There was no price displayed here, so I'm not really sure how much it would take for you to be able to open up your garage door and see this car inside. I'm mildly amused by the fact that it even has a horn. It does have a rear view mirror, which is unusual for the period. Heck, it's only money. Just go make more. Oh, hey, here's that 9-liter beast of an engine. Here, take a look at this. We've got 2 full sets of spare spark plugs mounted on the firewall so that you can change these things in a hurry if they get fouled during a race. Pretty brass water pump. The cooling system with that massive radiator in general is pretty impressive. Here's another impressive car. This one is impressively small. This Metropolitan can be yours for only $20,000. The Metropolitan was built by Nash, but not in the U.S. This was built in England as a cost-saving measure using existing components like the Austin B-Series engine. This is a 1957, so not actually a Nash Metropolitan. It's properly just a Metropolitan. They dropped the Nash name. It was sold by AMC through Rambler dealers. Some of the earlier series Metropolitans, these have been made since 1953, were actually badged as Hudsons. That was, of course, also part of AMC. This is a Series 3 made from 1955 to 1957. And yes, that is the factory hood ornament for the Series 3 Metropolitans. Try and do that today. Up next, we have a 1932 Buick 90 Series. This was modified in 1937 into a tow truck. Yes, and all the graphics on this restoration faithfully duplicate the 1937 originals. This is a good example of what was commonly done early on before commercial tow trucks, where you would take a powerful touring car, in this case a Buick with a 344 cubic inch engine, and cut off the back half and make it into a pretty serviceable tow truck. You see pictures of them all the time, but rare that you see them in person. There was no signage at all on this 71 Plymouth Fury, but it was just a nice, clean car, so I wanted to just point it out. Once again, when I'm not giving you prices, that means that in most cases I just don't know what the price is because they don't have proper signage. Anyway, this is a Fury 3. In 1971, Plymouth offered the Fury in a lot of different levels. There was the Fury 1, the Fury 2, the Fury 3, and Sport Fury. And then each of these had different option packages, so a lot going on. Here's one I do know the price, $14,000, and you could have this 1962 Dodge Dart Wagon. This is actually the higher trim level Dart 440. Not to be confused with the later 440 engine. Now, 440 in this case is just a trim level. The actual engine is a very capable 318. The owner notes that cruise control has been added for additional driving comfort. Note the handholds there to help you get into the third row seating, and of course the third row seating faces backwards. That leaves the kids 2 rows back and facing the other way. You can forget they're even there. This particular wagon wears its age well with preserved patina, but it's solid all around, so if the new owner wants a repaint for a more finished look, that wouldn't really be too hard. Next up, we have a 1973 Volvo P800 ES. This could be yours for $29,900. I think I've expressed my appreciation for the Volvo 1800s on this channel before. It's just a nice, clean design, and it's got the tail fins. What's really not to like? You really don't see it too much in the wagon configuration. It's a nice design. You can see the rear is just one single glass hatchback that opens up rather than a conventional tailgate. 72 would be the last year for the 1800. 1932 Ford Model B. This is the last Ford four-cylinder engine before the flathead. This is a extension and improvement on the Model A engine. The 32 is a really pretty car, and I like to see it in its original configuration like this. They're asking $49,000 for this car as it sits, everything completely original. There's a better view of the nice proportions of this car. This same year, 1932, was the first year, of course, that you could get the flathead V8 engine. The 32s fitted with the Model B engine were called Model Bs. If you opted for the V8, that was called a Model 18. Anyway, the four-cylinder Model B engine was continued into 1934 as an option, but then dropped after that. They were all V8s going forward. 1940 LaSalle convertible. This is the last year LaSalle, and it can be yours for $59,900 OBO. LaSalle, of course, is the Cadillac companion car, and I think it had superior styling to Cadillac. Just look at that front end. Anyway, they phased it out after 1940 because they felt it was starting to eat into Cadillac sales. Also, sales in the luxury car market were getting a bit soft. LaSalle sales had kind of fallen off because really there wasn't a lot of room in the GM lineup that was below Cadillac but above Buick and Oldsmobile. Here's a 1932 Buick Victoria. The Victoria body style had an attached trunk rather than a separate, like a luggage rack sort of a thing in the back. Anyway, very nice. That is the original factory hood ornament on there. Buick was kind of a fancy car at this point. They're asking $37,900 OBO. Sharp looking car. Hey, the cars here aren't all highly restored showpieces. For $8,000, you can have this 84 Bronco 2 barn find. The regular full-size Bronco was based on the F-150 chassis. The Bronco 2 is based on the smaller Ford Ranger. This one is a nice V6 Auto 4x4. Never mind the mismatched body panels. They'll all paint up the same color anyway. Broncos are hot right now. $17,500 will get you this 1950 Chevrolet Sedan delivery. Never mind the amusing graphics, it's not actually a hearse. In fact, the seller notes that you can paint those over if you don't like them. This one has been re-engined with a 1953 Truck 235. That engine has then been extensively performance modified, so you got a real good runner here. I always like these sedan deliveries, and really also the truck panel deliveries. They're kind of rare to see because they were used commercially originally, and in general they were used and abused when they were new, so the survival rate is a little lower on them than there is for regular cars or even regular trucks. Here's a 1957 Chevrolet convertible, and about the nicest one that you're going to ever see. Asking price is $155,000 OBO. Here you can see that this car was judged 999 points out of 1,000 by the AACA, which would just annoy me to no end for some reason. I'd rather get a lower score than be that close to perfection. People have asked me before why I don't cover more popular cars like the 57 Chevy more often. And I don't know, I feel like cars like this, or maybe like a 63 Corvette, it's not like that I don't like them. I do. I really appreciate these cars, but it seems like so much has been written and talked about certain cars that I don't really feel like I'm adding to the conversation. You know what I mean? Anyway, maybe I'm just wrong on that and I need to cover them more. 1970 Datsun 240Z can be yours for $85,000 OBO. The Nissan Datsun Z cars have been really hot commodities for a while now, and this 1970 version is the first year of its introduction into the United States. The only engine option was a 2.4-liter inline 6, and for 1970 only, you could have only a 4-speed manual. The following year in 1971, they introduced an automatic as an option. This one has undergone a full rotisserie restoration and is about as nice as you can find. Nice 59 Ford for $22,500. I was immediately drawn to this one because I used to own its twin. Same color scheme and everything. Owner states that this one is entirely rust-free. Mine was not. It had a big rust hole right there with rust going down the A-pillar. It did run, but it was rough. I eventually sold it to someone, I think, in Sweden. I sent him a lot of pictures. Next door, we have a nice 1948 Ford Woody Wagon. This sports the original flathead V8, as you can see in there. Everything is as it should be. The real charm is towards the back, though. Not only the wood on the outside, but look at that beautiful wood ceiling. I guess you could still call that a headliner, maybe? I don't know. I don't think so. This thing would just be a joy to just be in. He had no price listed, and the owner was deep in conversation, so I didn't want to pester him, but just look at the beauty of this. As a reminder, I am showing you just a small sample of the cars that are for sale. The Car Corral at Hershey is massive, so I'm obviously not showing you nearly everything. 1972 Dodge Charger Rally. Owner states that it's a unrestored driver quality. Asking $28,500 for this nice late muscle car era car. This is also a nice example of that mysterious early 1970s super love of white interior on cars. Seriously, if your car has a white interior, it seems like there's a 90% chance that this car was made between 1970 and 1972. Hey, bet you haven't seen one of these before. This was built in 1957 by Spahn Coachbuilders in Ravensburg, Germany. Spahn was a very illustrious coach builder before World War II. After the war, they survived by buying leftover cars from the U.S. military and building one-off car bodies on them to buyer specifications, so they were all one of a kind. This one was built on a 1939 Ford chassis with a 1953 Cadillac engine. The original buyer who spec'd out this car was Colonel George Lavrin. He was the commander of the American 479th Tactical Fighter Wing at the time. That all kind of tracks because the car looks like sketches that a fighter pilot might have drawn up of the most awesome car he could think of in 1957. Anyway, this is one of the last Spahn custom cars. They closed their doors forever in 1957. I didn't see a price listed, but of course money is no object for discerning buyers looking for something that is certainly eye-catching. I know I really couldn't decide whether I really liked this or not. Let's cleanse our palates with something a little more standard looking. Here's a 1976 Datsun pickup truck. The owner's sign calls it a 720, but I'm pretty sure we're looking at a 620 here, but I don't want to necessarily say the owner's wrong. You don't really see these too much. The 70s era Datsuns had a lower survival rate because they were just a little bit prone to rust. He's asking $20,000, claims original paint. For an extra $2,200, you can get that three-wheeler in the back. Ah, yes, good old Porsche 356. This is a 1958. The owner is asking $228,000. This is sometimes referred to as the bathtub Porsche, and I've heard a couple of reasons why. Either because it looked like an upside-down bathtub, or because things like convertible tops and sunroofs like this one were prone to leaking, so it was like sitting in a bathtub if you drove it in the rain. The owner assures me not a hint of leaks on this one because this has been completely gone over and is turnkey. You can drive this anywhere. The engine has also been bored and blueprinted with a race cam and a lightened flywheel. Now this is just pretty. $23,500 will get you this Rambler American Wagon. By 1960, the Nash name had disappeared, and this was simply called the Rambler. This car features the standard Rambler inline 6 and an automatic transmission. It's a little small for an American station wagon, but this was meant to compete with the likes of the Falcon and the Corvair, so it's a smaller car. The Rambler wagons would continue to be made up until 1969, and I don't know, I always liked them. There's sort of a no-nonsense working man's feel to them. Well, really, the whole AMC lineup. Ooh, a 1959 Chevy Apache pickup. This one has had a frame-off restoration and is being offered at $34,900. The Apache name referred to all Chevy light-duty pickups in 1958 and 1959. The medium-duty and heavy-duty trucks were called the Viking and the Spartan. The fleet side badging on there is for the new bed design that was introduced the previous year, 1958. This is just a clean example. I did see something on the inside I wanted to point out. See that little prism-like thing mounted on the dash? That's actually a stoplight viewer. It reflects the color of the stoplight, so you don't have to crane your neck or lean over to see it if you're pulled all the way up to the intersection. Neat little period accessory there. There's also little indicators so that you can see where the edge of your fender is and you don't hit things with it. Let's go take a look at an import. What this is a 1948 Fiat 500B Topolino Giardiniera. This is available for $35,000 OBO and features the original Topolino 35 cubic inch engine. But hey, that little engine could propel this car up to a top speed of 53 miles per hour. Not that you'd want to go that much faster. There's no getting around the fact that a Topolino is a small car. The Giardiniera Woody Wagon is a slightly larger body style, but still, it's small. See all that space in front of the windshield that looks like maybe that's the engine compartment? That's not the engine compartment. This part here with the hood up, that's the engine compartment. The entire engine sits right up there. The whole thing is in front of the radiator, but you don't need a lot of cooling when you're only generating 13 horsepower. Although these were popular over in European cities at the time, they really weren't seen over here in the U.S. This one would certainly make an interesting collector car, but maybe not something I'd want to take across country. Let's step into one of the tents and look at some fancy cars. This is a 1910 Marion Special Roadster. The sign says, "Inquire for price." The Marion Car Company was founded in 1904 in Indianapolis. One of their early principals was Harry C. Stutz, who would go on to form the Stutz Motor Company in 1910, the same year this car was made. He would in 1911 produce the Stutz Bearcat. Interestingly, Marion had a similar car in 1913, the Stutz Bobcat. Anyway, supposedly Harry had a large hand in designing this particular car, which would have been just before he left to form his own company, so what you're looking at may be the precursor to the Stutz Bearcat. Marion as a company, unfortunately, was always financially shaky. They were bought out in 1915 and finally went out of business for good in 1918. Here's another unusual car. This is a 1500 aerodynamic made in 1947 by British firm HRG. This was exported when new to the United States and raced in 1950 and 51 in SCCA events, including Watkins Glen. The owner has a great folder of information, including photographs of this car when it was racing. HRG Engineering Company made sports cars from 1935 to 1956, and they were never really a large company. They were based in Tolworth in Surrey in England. They apparently only made 241 cars in total. That's it. But because they were such a specialty car, a lot of these cars have survived over the years. They're still very rare to see, though. This is apparently inquire for price on this one. Let's move on to something a little more standard looking. Here's a 1938 Hudson 8 Deluxe convertible. Very nice. This is being offered at $39,500. See, some people aren't afraid to put the price out there. Between the higher-priced Hudson line and the lower-priced Terraplane, the Hudson company was really producing some sharp cars about this period of time. The owner states that the car starts and drives well with the 122 horsepower straight-8 engine. Nice car. Here's another nice car. This is a 1940 Oldsmobile Dynamic Series 70. You can tell it's an Oldsmobile because of the 3 acorns. The acorn symbol was used by Oldsmobile in the 30s, 40s, and 50s to symbolize its pioneering work in the auto industry. See, acorns, get it? Anyway, back to the car at hand. Oldsmobile actually never made a woody wagon like this. This is actually special coach work by Mid-State Body Company. They were a GM supplier at the time, and they converted a new Oldsmobile chassis. So this is the only one like this in existence. And that's really too bad, because looking at this thing, I think Oldsmobile was really missing a bet. There could have been a market for this at the time. And we would have been gifted with more of these out there, hopefully. This one sat undiscovered in a barn for 30 years, but you can have it now for $55,000. Hey, let's go see what's in the pop-up showroom. It's a 1956 Continental Mark II. The Continental was really a radical design for the time. Look at the cleanliness of the design compared to other things that you would see in 1956. Ford really swung for the fences for this two-door personal luxury car. Note that this is not a Lincoln. The Continental was a separate division in 1956 and 57. Continental was actually priced above any Lincoln. In fact, it was above any Cadillac. They were aiming for a higher-end luxury market here, priced on par with a Rolls-Royce. It was the most expensive American-made car for 1956. Yours today for $58,000. This may not be American-made, but it's nice. This is a 1956 Jaguar XK140. This is for sale for $89,900, although he's also open to offers or trades. The body style here is officially an FHC, or fixed head coupe, as opposed to a DHC, drop head coupe. That would be the convertible version. Anyway, this is a really, really nice looking car. You heard me mention earlier how much I like panel deliveries, and here is one. This is a 1941 Ford panel delivery, re-engined with a Mercury flathead. It's being offered at $33,000 and is a clean-looking truck. The later Mercury flatheads, by the way, were different than the Ford in that they had a larger displacement with a little bit longer throw on the pistons. That's why they would have done the engine swap, presumably. Maybe the Mercury engine was just available. Here's another nice truck, a 1937 Ford available for $20,000. This one is in a nice grain bed configuration. Being from a rural area myself, I always have a soft spot for farm trucks. As is the case with this sort of thing, the truck would have been originally provided with a cab and chassis only, with a third-party or homemade bed on the back. Oh, my mistake. I don't think this is a grain bed. It would have probably a different sort of a tailgate arrangement on the back. Anyway, it's a really nice, substantial-looking truck. I could see myself driving this thing to local auctions. Or maybe on runs to Tractor Supply. I'm going to wrap up this video with just a good, honest piece of 1950s American steel. See those two chrome strips down the center of the hood? Pontiac had had a wide chrome strip down the hood since 1935. They called it the Silver Streak. Anyway, this year, 1956, would be the last year for that styling feature. I think 1956 is a good year for car design. The following year, we started to move towards those styling excesses of the late 50s. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that little sample of the cars that were for sale at the Hershey AACA Fall Meet. There's a couple of other Hershey videos coming up, so stay tuned to the channel. I've got one on the Hershey Car Show, a world-class event, and the arms of the Mesa auction preview. Anyway, if you don't want to miss anything, let me move over to the side here. Go ahead and subscribe. There should be a link appearing shortly right there, and hit the little bell symbol so you get the notification when I post a new video. Or if you want to check out some of my videos right now without waiting, there's a link right about there for some of my other videos. Go and make an afternoon of it. Just enjoy car stuff. Anyway, until next time, I'll talk to you later.